I don't know if you guys remember, but about a year ago, there was a movement that called itself, I guess, classical liberalism, which claimed to be part of some new center of American politics. And in reality, it was a complete and total ruse. What they wanted to do was to sort of normalize wacky libertarian conservatism as if it were the new center of American politics, when it really wasn't the new center of American politics. But just because that movement was wrong in identifying a new center doesn't mean that there isn't an identifiable new center. And that's what I want to talk about today. And I think the context that will be relevant and interesting here is that if we on the left want to keep moving ourselves to the left as a country, we want to understand the areas in which the average of the country would be liable to side with us rather than to be pulled further to the right. Now, I don't know if this is necessary, but as a quick disclaimer before we jump into this new center that I'm going to describe to you, these are not my views. I know that if I don't do this, I will have 100 messages tomorrow from people saying, David, you centrist shill. It is, I know we're not used to it with Donald Trump, who's unable to do any kind of abstract thinking, but I'm going to describe to you a set of beliefs that is not mine. So these are not my beliefs. I'm to the left of this new center. Now, that being said, let's get into the details. Gallup did a very interesting study, which they've done for 20 to 40 years on different issues. And they looked at where is the country right now on a variety of different issues. And they've represented the issues as well as the shift in opinion visually. And we're putting that up on the screen for our visual audience, but I'm also going to describe it to you. And this lets us build up a sort of picture of where the middle is right now in America on a number of issues. So let's go through the 8 issues. So on gun sales, the center, the average of the country right now, the middle, wants more strict gun sales laws than those that we've had in the past. The center believes that religion is fairly important, but not very important. The center thinks that military spending is about right, believes the earth should be prioritized over the economy, and that immigration law should more or less stay the same in terms of the number of immigrants coming into the United States. The center, as of today, thinks that the federal income tax is just about right. They don't think it should be raised, but they don't think it should be lowered. That abortion should be legal sometimes, but not always. And that marijuana should be legalized. So remember, this is just an average of the middle. But what's extremely interesting about this is that it proves that the new center is not libertarian. It is not classically liberal. And you really need to look at the details to understand this new center. As an example, if the new center were merely libertarian, it wouldn't favor stricter gun laws, for example. It wouldn't favor prioritizing the earth over the economy because that is code for we've got to regulate business activity. If the center were libertarian, it wouldn't think immigration laws were just about right because true libertarians want total mobility of labor, and that's not what we currently have. What's also important to understand about how we came to this new center is how opinion on these 8 issues has shifted over time. So again, looking at one example, in the early 90s, much of the country believed gun laws should be made more strict. That changed until 2010 when people wanted looser and looser gun laws. And then since 2010, we've seen a reversal, which has very strongly returned to the early 90s numbers where the center wants stricter gun laws. So does the left as well. Religion has been much more steady in its change over time. The center of America has found religion less and less important over time, where it now finds it fairly but not very important. Military spending has moved pretty erratically, often in concert with what's going on militarily at the time. And then interestingly, if you look at the trends on immigration, it is very steady over the last 40 years that immigration to the United States should generally speaking be increased, ending up sort of at it's okay where it is. And then probably not surprisingly on marijuana, it's been a steady increase in the proportion of Americans that believe cannabis should be legalized. So Why do we care about this? Again, if we want to build the left, we must understand where the center is. If we misunderstand where the center is, we are not going to properly structure our platform. The center is not some small government, pro-business conservative, the way we would sometimes be convinced. Mitt Romney is not the center. Mitt Romney is far more reasonable than Donald Trump. Mitt Romney is far less offensive and dangerous than Donald Trump, but Mitt Romney is not the center, and that's important to understand. When the left thinks the center is something that it's not, it tries to appeal to the center in the wrong ways. So let me know what you think. I think that this new center represents a lot of the changes we've been following in the United States, which would include a sort of status quo perspective on some issues and a progressivization on other issues. Let me know what you think. Let me know, importantly, how you think our understanding of this new center could be used to bring more people to our side and to really push progressive change.